Hey, what's happening? Jason Woodland back again with Always the Journey TV. This time representing interview number 69. We are rocking and rolling out here talking to all kinds of cool people as usual. And if I can please remind you to throw us a thumbs up on the content if you enjoy it, which I know you do. And also would love for you to subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. There's a button in one of the corners that makes it easy for you to throw up a subscribe. So anyway, the whole objective here of Always the Journey TV is to spotlight people out in the community doing things for their businesses, their jobs, their music, their art, their side hustles, their event spaces, and everything in between. The whole goal here is to learn about the journeys of all these awesome people. So thank you again so much for tuning in. Today, I'm extremely excited to introduce you to my friend Michael Glassford. Michael is an author, speaker, and a trust and estate attorney. He has practiced law for 17 years and is licensed in Utah and Missouri. He wrote his first book, Fog of Fortune, a historical pirate thriller, in 2014. I've yet to read that, and that sounds definitely very entertaining. His second book, Divorcing with Dignity, was published in 2017 when he retired from family law practice and focused all of his efforts on estate planning. Michael believes that you are the author of your own story. He works with friends and clients to help them create a foundation so they can live their best lives. Friends, please allow me to introduce my friend Michael Glassford. What's happening?
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. It's a beautiful morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well as well. I love it. It is a great morning.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. What's going on in your world?
Just living the dream and working really hard and enjoying every day.
Nice. Well, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to learn, we've had a handful of conversations, but I wanted to learn a little bit more about your sort of your come up. And obviously that's what my viewers are looking for as well. So tell us a little bit about sort of how you, like, where you grew up and where you went to high school and what that experience was like.
All right, so I was young in Southern California. I don't say I grew up there because I really haven't yet. So you can ask around, people will confirm that. But in a little town called Mission Viejo in Orange County. So I was a Mission Viejo Diablo and had a good high school experience. Lost a whole bunch. Felt what it was like to lose. My high school football team, we were the worst team in our high school's history, 0-10. And I had the privilege of having my name in gold next to that team because I was one of the captains. And it was super fun. But learned a whole bunch from that for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I'm laughing with you though, not at you.
You could totally laugh with us. It was a building year. The things that they learned from that year and the things that they implemented turned them into what they are now, and they're one of just a powerhouse football team.
Nice. So you were the framework of that.
Yeah, we were the beginning building blocks. We got to experience hardships so others could stand on success.
Exactly. So were you born in California then?
Yeah, Laguna Beach.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. So you were born in California and you lived your entire young life in California then?
Yeah, till graduation, and then I got accepted to play football at BYU, and but I was a little too short. I'm only 6'2", and I should have been 6'5" as an offensive tackle. When I graduated high school, I weighed 273 and I benched 350 and I squatted 700. So I was ready to go play football. But I was dyslexic and I didn't know it. So I had not done very well on the ACT. And so they said, well, if you want to come play for us, you're going to have to come to summer school and show us that you can be a good student. So I said, fine, that works. I like bargains. So went to summer school, and I was going to school full time and working full time at the Marriott Center in the stadium, and going and dating full time, of course. And that was fun. That was a new experience because I really didn't date in high school. And there's so many full times that I'm like, football full time, and they're not going to pay me. Yeah, I'm going to pass.
That's interesting. So, okay, so you graduated high school in California, spent your entire life there. Well, let's uh, backtrack a tiny bit. Were you a surfer?
So no, I tried to be. I spent a lot of time on the beach,
Yeah.
but as a 6'2", big framed person, um, I needed a really big board, and I never had enough money to buy one. So anytime I'd get on any kind of chop on a skinny board or a small short board, I'd fall on my face. So I stuck to boogie boarding a lot.
Oh, that's cool. All right. What was your favorite beach?
Uh, our beach was Doheny, but we didn't. There's not a lot of great waves there because of the break. Uh, but we would go to like San Onofre, where it was always warm thanks to the nuclear plant. But the sharks like that, so that was always trade off. That was fun. And then Trussels, we like that.
Cool. What would you say is one of your favorite things about growing up in California?
For me, growing up then was different than now, and we just did things. We just jumped on our bikes and rode for miles. Like Doheny was 13 miles away from my house, and that wasn't a big deal. We drove through different areas, and some of them were more affluent, and some of them were kind of scary. But we were just allowed to be kids and ride our bikes and go anywhere we wanted to go, and just explore the world that we lived in.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely different times, but that's really cool that you had that experience and being able to grow up and spend time on the beach and do some boogie boarding and all that kind of fun stuff. So when it came to transferring over to BYU, so did you say that you went there for football
Mhm.
originally? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then what were you originally studying at BYU?
So when I started school, I wanted to be an engineer. I had taken my senior year in high school. All the classes I had were English because that was a love of mine, stories and writing, and that was always part of the goal is to become a writer. And then the other half of my curriculum was engineering classes, AutoCAD, drafting. I was the engineering teacher's aide, so I had about 100 hours on AutoCAD coming out of high school, and
Wow.
I just wanted to go into that engineering field. And the first math class I took was called Reformed Calculus. And all that meant was that you had to do calculus with three other people that knew less than you, and your grade was like a group grade.
Oh,
Uh, that that was not thrilling to me. And I best $5 I ever spent was dropping Reformed Calculus and changing my major from engineering to English.
oh, interesting. Okay, so your major then was English.
Yeah, that's what it became.
Okay. Well, I mean, and you've put good use to that. I mean, you've got two books out, right?
Two books out. I had three. We took one back, took it off the shelf. There's a paranormal romance, a little bit of a stretch, but it'll show up again one day.
All
And then
right.
we have about four waiting in the wings that just need my attention to finish up.
Nice. Okay. So you finished college with an English degree.
Hmm.
What did you do right after that?
So I went straight into law school.
Okay.
Never really planned on law school. I had a lot of mentors growing up. My scoutmaster was a lawyer. My young men's president was a lawyer. The person that kind of took care of us in our church services, the young boys anyway. And so that was always there, and I knew that was kind of a cool thing. And then my father-in-law, when I got married at school, was also a lawyer. And one day we got into it a little bit. We were driving down somewhere in Salt Lake, and he was visiting, and we had a disagreement, and it got pretty heated. And at the end of the disagreement, we kissed and made up, and it was fine. And he said, "I really like how you think and how you argue. When you graduate from BYU, you should consider going to law school and coming and working with me." And I said, "Okay," having no idea what it's like working with family. But I said, okay. So that kind of shaped the path.
Interesting. So obviously, you had a lot of positive inspiration that sort of drove you into law school to begin with, because you had a lot of your mentors, in essence, that were attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
and they sort of helped drive you toward that path. So when you entered law school, what was that experience like in the very beginning for you?
So that was when I found out, after 4 years of high school and English classes and 4 years of English classes at BYU, that I was dyslexic. I had studied for the LSAT. That's the test you take to get into school, and I took it. I took the class, the whatever the Kaplan class was, and then I took the test, and I didn't do very well, and I just couldn't. I was scratching my head, couldn't figure out why, because I felt really prepared. And the guidance counselor said, let's test you on something. So they did, and sure enough, I was dyslexic, and so she suggested that I find a story that I really know well and love, and she taught me how to speed read with my finger forward and backwards. And she said, for the next month, you're going to read that story, which was Lord of the Rings, of course, uh, forward and backward, and you're going to take the test again. And so we did that, and went back and took the test again, and got 15 points better, which is not, you don't do that. They actually thought that I might have cheated. So they had to go in and make sure that that didn't happen, and it didn't. I said, no, I just learned how to read and take your test. Uh, so that got me into the school that I was trying to get into, which was Washburn out in Topeka, Kansas, because I was going to work with my father-in-law in Missouri, and so I wanted to get as close to Missouri as possible. I had a wait list at Mizzou, and then they came in like 3 months later and said, yeah, we'll let you in. But I'm 3 months into my first year at Washburn. I already have my friends and my study group and my outlines and all of the stuff that you want at law school. And I said, no, I'm good. I'm good here.
Wow. Okay. So you passed the LSAT, quite a big jump from where you were.
Mhm.
Obviously, they did the investigation, and you passed with flying colors, because, of course, you're a stand-up guy, and that would, of course, be the case. So, what did you? What was the path like within college? Did you have an idea or a goal of what type of law you wanted to practice thereafter, or what did that look like exactly?
I really didn't even know what the practice of law would be, or what I would like or enjoy. I was pretty naive to that. All I knew was I wanted to be a writer, and being a lawyer, they make money, so that would like feed the addiction to be a writer, and that was always kind of the goal. But when I got to law school, I really early on, and I wish I could remember who told me this, but they taught me, this is how you do law school. You show up at the library at 6 a.m., and you stay in that library and read unless you're in class, and then you go back to the library until 5, and then you go home. And so I did that, 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., studied in the library or class, and then I went home, and I never cracked a book, even for finals, past 5 o'clock. And so I was a law student in the day, and a husband and father at night, and it worked really well. And if I could have figured out how to just do that professionally, I would have just kept being a student. Plus, they gave you a whole lot of free pizza, so it was fun.
Now you're speaking my language. I'm all about pizza. So, what were some of the subjects that really caught your attention while you were in law school?
So they have the standard things that you must take. You have to take criminal law, you have to take civil procedure, you have to take family law, you have to go through con law 1 and 2, and property, and real estate kind of stuff. Um, each class had a little bit different flavor for the content. Like, I was just bored to death in civil procedure. Like, that was the worst. and he just didn't really put it together. At least I didn't. That, that's what you do day in and day out as a lawyer, is drafting documents and filing with the court. And they made it way harder in the class than what it actually is in practice. So that was a struggle. But learning like the rules of evidence, that was fun. Learning con law and going into all those cases, especially like the big one that just came out. We studied that in depth, and so I have a different perspective from that, for what that case meant than a lot of other people. Um, Criminal law always caught my eye, knowing the mens rea, the intent, to understand that to convict of a crime, it took showing all the elements. You can knock out those elements, then you have a conviction. So just every class was different. I remembered property, enjoying the property class, but feeling mentally violated leaving that class after that test. It was worse than the actual taking of the bar experience. So each class had a flavor.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's something that you may appreciate. So, in the early 2000s, I also contemplated going to law school, and you know who Jerry Spence is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I had read everything, to my knowledge anyway. I'd read everything that he had written or had been a part of, and followed a lot of his career. And I wrote him a letter one day, and I asked him a few questions just about law school and that experience and so forth. And he wrote me a letter back, and I still have a copy of the very first letter that he sent me. And he said, "Read my book, The Making of a Country Lawyer." He said some of your answers will be found there. So I read that book, and I still have a copy of the book as well. I wrote him another letter, and then we actually were technically pen pals for probably a year and a half, and we just wrote letters back and forth. And I understood a bit of the magnitude of what that was back then, but now it's that much more powerful because it's like Jerry Spence, and I became a pen pal with him in the early 2000s, and it's just sort of surreal. So that's my story.
Did he try to dissuade you from going?
Not necessarily. But it wasn't necessarily like a big push either. It was very interesting. We sort of became friendly throughout our letters, and it just seemed a little bit more of like a critical analysis. Like
Hmm.
he just wanted me to like think deeply about it, and so it wasn't really like a pro or for or against kind of thing. It was interesting.
Yeah, my essay to get into law school was a little controversial, and when you have to get mentors to write letters to the law school, and one of my mentors was my scoutmaster. He was a chemical attorney, and he read my essay, and he's like, what are you thinking? Because the first line was, I used to want to be a lawyer. And then it went through the process of what I thought lawyering was about, and how I had journeyed through and come to a new conclusion on what kind of lawyer I want to be now. And I had a little edge to it. And he's like, "This is the worst essay. You can't run with this." And I said, "Nope, that's what I'm going to go with." And then I took it to my English professor, my senior thesis professor at BYU, and I said, "Hey, here's my letter. Would you write a letter of recommendation?" And this is a favorite memory, because he's in this power setting in his office, window behind him, backlit, and he's got a pencil in his hand, and he just slams the pencil down on his table, and it breaks through his fingers. And he swears, and like swears at BYU. I'm like, all right, this is awesome. Damn it, Michael. Why do you want to waste your talents at law school? And I'm like, because I don't know. But yeah, he was very passionate, and he read the essay. And he chuckled. He's like, all right, you turn this one in, because it sticks it to him. So I,
Wow.
I stuck to my guns and turned the essay in, and actually the admissions dean commented that had made me stand out. that they looked at me a second time because I wasn't afraid of saying something a little bit differently.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, congrats on that. I mean, especially in those admissions, you really have to do something special so then you can sort of get attention.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was a little bit of a gamble, but hey, high risk, high reward, right?
Nice. So, alongside of this experience of becoming an attorney, you've got an extreme passion for writing. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration where this writing comes from, and then also your style of writing and being in like such a connoisseur of like Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potters and all that kind of stuff. Like, where does that all come from?
So it's just a love of story. As early as I can remember, I was always enacting a story with a GI Joe figure or a He-Man, doll, and it was always very epic and very, But it wasn't just like boom, boom, boom. There was story, there was character, there were, character development, there was death, there was sadness, there was, all of the emotions that come with that. And I remember sitting in seventh grade and just in the back of the English class and writing, medieval times play and really just developing that. And part of my journey, I didn't know that I was dyslexic, but I knew I didn't like reading. It wasn't fun to me because it was a struggle. It was hard. Um, and two movies came out right about that time, seventh grade. Uh, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Jurassic Park. And I was able to watch those movies and enjoyed them. Obviously, Robin Hood and then Jurassic Park, seeing dinosaurs for the first time. But then going back and reading the books, and I found that now that I had a visual in my head, then I could read those two books a lot easier. The words stayed on the page better for me, and a joy of reading, developed. So now I'm a storyteller, and then now I can implement reading into that because real writers are readers. I learned that later on, but that just kind of started that process back then, and that just opened up a whole lot of things to me. And so, as and I love the fantasy. I love those worlds where you can really explore human emotion. Where you can really explore the depths of the soul with a little bit of fun, added on, a little bit of allegory because it's in a fantasy world. But really, we can really go deep on looking at ourselves in that kind of a that was always my love, and just reading and experiencing those. And then as the Harry Potter books came out and the movies, and we had this huge insurgence of just fantasy, and it became very pop culture. So I wasn't complaining about that at all. And then I graduated. I wrote a lot during college, but then started my young law firm and didn't have a whole lot of time to write. And, just I was just focused on building a practice, and being a boss for the first time and having secretaries and all that kind of stuff, and learning really on early on that it wasn't going to work out with my father-in-law. He was an amazing mentor. He like was there all the time to answer questions, but actually running a firm with him was difficult. So we quickly decided that I would focus, face east, and he would face west, and we would just do our own thing, which was a good decision. And so it wasn't until about 2010 that I said, "Hey, I need to get back to this writing thing." And we'd taken a trip to Florida for Thanksgiving, so we were there down on the Gulf for a week. And I said, "Okay, I've been telling my son this story. We lived out in the middle of nowhere in the country, and I would listen to books on the way into work, about a half hour in, a half hour out, and to my office. And then I would come home at night and serialize that story for my son. Just tell him the little part that I had heard that day, and that became kind of a habit and a tradition. And we finished Treasure Island, and he said, "Tell me another story." And I said, "There's no more pirate books in the library. That's it. It's a small town of 1,200 people. We got nothing else." He's like, "I don't care. Tell me another pirate story." And so we said, "All right, well, you really liked Long John Silver. He was kind of a fun character, and so our new pirate is gonna be Jonathan Edwards. He's English, and but Jonathan Edwards doesn't strike fear into the hearts of men. So Jonathan Edwards has a silver sword. He's Captain Silver Sword, and so that's how Captain Silver Sword was born, and we just created this world around him, and started telling that story. And then and on that vacation, when we went down to Florida, I said it's time to write it. So took that week, wrote on the beach, put thought to word, and got out that first manuscript.
Wow, that's amazing. So you were in private practice at this time. You're writing a book alongside of that, and you get to write the book on the beach. So that's inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And then you publish the book, and then you're off to the races as a writer.
So not that easy. Wrote it, rewrote it, rewrote it, rewrote it, rewrote it some more. Joined some writing groups. Found a good writing mentor out in Missouri where I was, and he had published several books. And just Raymond Edge is just a superhuman. So he was really helpful. And the night that I joined the writing group in town was the night just prior to an election that I was running for judge. And so they thought that I had joined the writing group as a ploy to get some attention, to get some more votes the next day. And I'm like, no, I just found out about you guys, and I'm here because I want to be a writer. Tomorrow has nothing to do with that. So I had to stick around a few meetings to make sure that they, that I was serious. But I was, and so then they gave me their hearts, and I gave them mine, and then really learned a whole lot about the writing community. Went to a couple conventions. Missouri was hard to break into in the writing world, and so it wasn't until 2013 when we left Missouri, come to Utah, and that I found a very welcoming writing community in Utah. And I took Fog of Fortune and I submitted it to a writing contest for a not published, finished manuscript, and it was in the young adult category. And so I went through this writing convention, and that was an adventure in and of itself, whole nother story. But I'm sitting at the final dinner, that the award ceremony, and they announce that the Fog of Fortune won Best Young Adult Manuscript. And so I'm like scratching my head, like, did they really just say my name? So I went up and collected the winnings. It was $100. That was my first professional monies for being a writer. And it was kind of a Harry Potter Draco Malfoy moment, because I had gotten into it with this guy that was the MC and the passer out of checks. And he hands me the check, and we both stare at each other. And I'll let you decide who was Draco and who was Harry. But I sat back down. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an award-winning manuscript. And they gave you all the comments from the judges, and one of the judges was like, I hate pirate stories. I hate ships. But when I read your story, I could feel the wind in my hair and the salt in my nose, and it just opened up a whole new world to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it kind of gave me the liquid courage that I needed to take that final step to get it published. And being an attorney and knowing contracts and knowing a thing or two, I wasn't very happy with the contracts that some of the smaller publishing houses were offering me, because they were taking way too many rights. And so I just said, I'm an award-winning author. I'm going to self-publish. So went that direction. I don't know if that was the best direction, but that's the way we went.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. So, so you were in private practice. Did you stay in private practice from there until now, or did you have any bumps or hiccups or changes, or what did that path look like?
Yeah, so lots of reinventions. So I started and then quickly changed directions and went on my own. Opened up my own office, my own secretary, just the two of us, and quickly grew that into a Main Street practice in little Warrenton, Missouri, and had 2 or 3 secretaries and a paralegal, and I was in court all day just doing anything that came in the door. So criminal law, traffic law, family law, wills and trusts, business law, civil litigation, and just super busy, super happy, just growing that practice. And that grew until 2013, when I came out to Utah just to visit my folks. And my wife and I, we just felt very impressed to live in Utah. And that just didn't, had a beautiful home, lived on an acre and a half, practice was thriving, but couldn't shake that feeling. So did what it took to get licensed in Utah with the bar, and we just came. And I sold my practice. Well, I thought I sold my practice. The guy filed bankruptcy on me, so a $200,000 sale. I got $2,500.
Oh,
Our 480,000 brand new custom home, it was like maybe 4 years old. That was at 2000. That was the second bump in the recession, and so couldn't give it away. Lost it in a deed in lieu. So we really gave up everything to come to the desert and start again. And I wanted to make sure that I had good mentors here in Utah. And so I started just knocking on attorneys' doors, and I asked the question, what's it like to practice here? Really, I was asking, please, sir, may I have a job? But I asked, what's it like to practice here? And I got a lot of good feedback, a lot of good mentorship. And eventually, I knocked on one door in Provo, and they said, hey, our partner just died. You have criminal law experience. He was our criminal law guy. Would you like to work with us? And relationship formed, and I was inserted into a firm for the first time, and that was a whole new experience. Lasted about 18 months. It would have lasted longer, but then I was suddenly facing a divorce of my own, and going through that uh, fun time, and needed to be at home with the kids and take care of them. And so I started working from home, and the partners were like, hey, you need to be at the office so we can work from home. And we just had to do an amicable split. So that was when Legal Inc. INK, because I'm a writer, Inc. Uh, was born. And so I found myself starting over a third time, and then in a new arena, in a new state. uh, that that took several iterations before I finally was able to find, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on: state planning. Have the courage, because it takes courage to let everything go and just focus on one practice area. Let family law go, let all that criminal stuff go, and just choose one and say, I'm an expert in this. And um, and then building the brand behind it. So it was quite a journey, ups and downs, and starting over and restarting over. In 2016, I'm building Legal Inc., estate planning, and I'm Ubering. I'm delivering pizzas. I worked for Papa John's. I worked for Uber. I worked for Grubhub. I worked for uh, Lyft. Anything I could do at night to make some money to get by, to reinvest it into the law office. I was doing it. So I got to go through that experience as well.
love that hustle. And sometimes you got to stack it deep, to make the ultimate dream happen.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you're working on pitches and working on elevator speeches, Uber's the way to go, because you have a captive audience for at least 20 minutes, and they have to listen to every word that comes out of your mouth. So I even got trust clients from Uber riders.
You got what?
I got new clients for the
Oh,
law office. I wrote their trusts because of conversations we had in the car.
oh my gosh. Well, maybe it's still a marketing strategy.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, so I'll cherish the time I had, but I probably won't go back.
That's awesome. So, what would you say is the uh, was one of the toughest lessons that you've learned over the last, let's say, 5 years while you're ebbing and flowing and transitioning and building and all these different things, what was one of the hardest lessons that you had to go through?
Well, I think the toughest lesson is realizing that you're just not that important. Like, people struggle all the time, and you're this writer, you're this lawyer, you're supposed to, have all this accolades, and sometimes you just don't, and it doesn't matter. You're still valuable. You're still a, son of God, I believe, and what you do in that moment when the whole world is beating you down and you just get up and go to work, that was really humbling. That was really hard. It was really hard to accept. I'm not a superstar right now. Not everybody knows me. Not everybody wants to hire me and use all the beautiful talents that I've been given. No, none of that was happening. I was struggling, and that struggle in and of itself, just to be there, was very hard, very humbling. So getting up in the morning was difficult, and continuing on through the day was hard, and just kind of getting over yourself and saying, hey, that's nice. You can feel important, but at the end of the day, you've got to work to be important.
Yeah, that's definitely a very humbling time when you realize that everybody is doing their own thing, and everybody's got their own stresses and their own everything, their own dramas and all their own problems and everything. And sometimes you can feel like you're out there on an island, and especially when you're on the come up, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just sort of alone in this thing, and I need to try to figure this thing out. And so I think that there's definitely a lot of props to be giving you, because I mean, to become a writer is its own phenomenal challenge. To become a practicing attorney who's doing well is also its own challenge. So I think that there's definitely some round of applause to yeah, hook you up with. And I know you're not looking for that, but I think that's definitely you went through a lot of really um, good teachable moments, so to speak. So what made you land on estate planning specifically? Like why there?
So it goes back to story. I'm a lover of story. And as I was building my brand, I started with, let's figure it out together. And that sounded horrible. It was awful, because it sounded like I didn't know myself. And and as I was building the brand, I landed on, it's your life, it's your story. Let's make it a good one. And I started using that in some of the networking meetings that I attend, and it really scored well with the audience, and people would actually start quoting me, like Michael Glassford says, "It's your life, it's your story, make it a good one." And that became the hub of everything. And with the choice of estate planning, because for me, estate planning is more than just dying. It's not about dying. We're not Klingons, we're not Vikings. We don't want to die well. I mean, if that's your jam, that's awesome, I support that. But I want to live well. I want to live in abundance. And so, during my journey, I met my wife, Tara Starling, and she teaches ideal life vision and abundance, and do away with scarcity, and use the elements and faith to manifest the life that you want to live. And that's the language that jives with me. And so I I really wanted to start teaching, because we just, like so many other areas of practice and life, we live below our potential. We don't even see the potential that we really do have. And in this aspect, where we can have an estate plan, a life plan in place, um, that the government actually allows us to have. Some things the government won't let you do, but this they do, and we can have some control and some feedback and some really really be at the driver's seat. And so I love that. I love that about estate planning. I love that no one else was really teaching that. I surrounded myself during that time, when I was driving and delivering food, with mentors that were teaching me, charge more, have less clients, but charge like $3, $4, $5,000 per trust, and find the joy and satisfaction in that kind of business model. And that just wasn't me. I'm like, no, I want to charge less and have more clients and have more people that I work with and touch lives. and really was able to start creating that model, while I'm thinking living in abundance. And then I a lot of this is not luck, but it's creating that positivity to walk into luck or walk into your own manifest destiny kind of thing. And I started getting some really good success on social media, and I started paying attention to what I was doing. I was being consistent. I was creating a brand. I was laying the foundation on my own pages, my wall, to show that I knew what I was talking about. But at the same time, I was going into these communities and engaging and becoming somewhat of an influencer. Like, I'm not a huge influencer, but it was all kind of, it's like diet and exercise. You can't say which one's more important, but they both work hand in hand.
Yeah.
Going in and providing content, but also providing community, really became the groundwork. So between the social media aspect and the content that I was creating, I created the Lawyer Minute. Every week I come in and just teach one thing on estate planning. It really took off, and now I wrote it's not a book, it's a workbook, but I wrote a book on how to use social media organically to grow your business, and I use that and teach my business clients that as well. And that's probably a little bit confusing because I'm focused in estate planning, but the demographic that I teach are business owners.
Yeah.
I'll work with non-business owners, but I really cast that net to a business audience, and so it makes sense to continue also doing LLC formation and contract agreement and things like that, because really, if your business isn't sound, your estate plan isn't sound, and there's an incongruity there, and something's going to fail you. So I do work on both sides of that arena to make sure that my client's whole perspective is in place.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sort of a holistic view,
Yeah,
so to speak. Nice.
you can have a really expensive business, and if it's not titled to your trusts or to your estate plan, your family's gonna have problems in court when you're gone, getting control over that.
Yeah, exactly. So, so you've got Legal Inc. It's rocking and rolling. Home based in Utah County, right?
Yeah. So, well, my office is in Sandy.
Sandy, yeah.
Thanks to COVID, I never go. Uh, Learned I had grounded this in concierge service, and so I was going to the client's home, and then COVID came out, and so I'm like, I'm the carrier. I guess I'm bringing it to my homes of the clients that I'm working with, and that didn't work. So it really legitimized Zoom meetings and or online meetings. So all of my meetings are now virtual. The whole practice is virtual, unless there's a signing, and then we take precautions and do what we need to do to meet together. But because of that virtuosity there, I think I made a word up. I was able to charge less. I'm traveling less. I'm spending less time with the client, and I can give that savings right back to the client. I love that. So even took things down a couple notches more, and so my services are usually less expensive than one of the .coms, and obviously better because you have a expert legal person working with you rather than a telemarketing person that tells you that they're not an attorney.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, this has definitely been really good to be able to do a deeper dive to get to know you a bit better and have my viewers also learn about Michael Glassford. Um, Before we wrap up, though, I've got a couple of quick things. So, I mean, you are obviously a connoisseur of all things fantasy. So, I mean, you've got books and swords, and I mean, you've got all kinds of cool collections. What would you say is one of your favorite collectibles that you have regarding the fantasy space?
Okay, so hands down, and you can't see it because it's tucked away. Um, it's a Star Trek book signed by Leonard Nimoy, and it's one of my favorite possessions. I love having that book because it's cool. And
Wow, that is cool.
I'm kind of unique. I like Star Trek and Star Wars. I think that they can live copacetically together, and so I'm a I'm an equal opportunity fantasy nerd. You know, our farm in Missouri, you know, we call it the Starfordshire. Um, and they're constantly playing Hobbit music there, it's for sure.
That's hilarious. Really?
Oh yeah. I'm always listening to like concerning hobbits, you know, in my ears or on my phone or blasting it to the animals. You know, the cows know Frodo.
So awesome. So yeah, I mean, just to quickly speak about that, I mean, you've got a farm, you've got animals.
So
We can't miss the animals.
I can't miss the animals. So when I met my wife 4 years ago, she was in this transition from city girl to farm girl, and I'm allergic to animals. I'm allergic to hay and grass and all of those things. And we joke that we wouldn't have met online. We would have swiped left on each other. Like she would have been like a selfie with her goat, and I would have like left. And you know, my online profile said the animals are my kryptonite, and I don't want people to have to choose between their love pet and me. So just, you know, if you got that, swipe left. So we met in person. So that actually happened, and she hoodwinked me, and I fell in love with her before I realized she came with a whole lot of animals. And we part of manifesting, she went from a mother-in-law apartment on someone else's ranch where she had a few animals to we found a place that we could rent that allowed animals. Our neighbor didn't like our roosters, so we started looking again and found this place in Riverton, which we called, you know, Shire 2.0. And we just fell in love with it and really made that our home and thought that that would be our forever home. And then God had different plans, and so we ended up selling that and buying 84 acres out in Missouri, transferring the animals out there, and now we live and work in Utah and fly out to Missouri to check on things. I have a foreman that runs the Staffordshire Ranch now. It's a ranch, and
Yeah.
I come out
Sophisticated.
and get to learn from him, and we've bought a herd, and we just brought in our first hay crop, 155 bales of hay. So all of these new experiences that I'm allergic to, but they're still fun. I found some really good allergy medicine, so that helps.
Oh, I hope so. So can you give us just sort of like a high level rundown of what animals do you guys currently have?
So right now we have a cow herd. So we have 15 cows. One of them's a bull, so hopefully we'll be making more cows from that. Then we have a Highland cow. She was a wedding gift, so she's been with us from the beginning. Her name's Millie. She's a Scottish Highland cow, big Ewok looking cow. And
Awesome.
then we have what we call the Shirelings or the Littles, and that consists of 4 goats, 2 baby doll sheep, 2 alpaca, and we've added since coming here to Missouri a yak named Maggie and a donkey named Hamilton, and yeah, so it's quite a menagerie, and we have about 50 chickens. They all have names. We don't need to go into that. We have 2 horses. One of them is trained in pulling a buggy, like a 1900 style buggy. So now we have a horse and buggy that we'll take to the flower market when Tara does her flowers. Um, she has a little company side hustle called the Flower Pharmacy. So farm, I see. Uh, and yeah, so we're creating a new little niche, a new little life here on the Shire, looking to share that experience with people, have them come in, really understand what farm life is about, and how to create, whether it's a farm experience or just an abundant life, how to really do that. And so that's Tara's focus as she transitions from film and television makeup to this new platform that so we're in transition again.
That's right. So yeah, your wife used to do or still does on occasion film makeup.
Yeah, so she her expertise is in blood and gore and really good at it. She'll dress me up sometimes to have an effect when I come and do a speech. And my favorite recently was she beat my face up and I looked like the guy from the Allstate commercial. I didn't call myself Mayhem because that's their thing, so I called myself Trouble, and I taught the audience, what trouble looks like, as opposed to estate planning, and that's something that's my specialty. Story, estate planning. It could be a really boring subject, and people really don't want to talk about it. But when I do it, we're going to teach estate planning according to Lord of the Rings or Princess Bride, or look like trouble, and teach you what you just don't know is coming down the road. We've put Albus Dumbledore on trial. We've told the story of Luke Skywalker according to trusts. So I like to really take a practical application through stories that everybody knows and loves, and teach principles that are strong, good, financial, foundational principles that kind of just suck to learn because it's boring. So I take away the boring.
And you beat it up.
Right.
Make it trouble. I love it.
And when I had that face paint on, I went to stores like Walmart and Costco that day, and let people just what happened to you? I'm like, oh, my wife did this to me.
And she did, literally.
She did. I had to explain that, but
Yeah.
Without the cops coming.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so hilarious. So, what would be the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to learn more, either about your legal practice, your writing, also, or just you as a person, if they just want to get to know you a little bit further?
So a bunch of different avenues. LegalLifePlan.com is the website, right there. You can reach out to me on Facebook at Vehicle to Wealth. So that's where all my Facebook videos and stuff is happening. I have platform on Instagram and other social media, but Facebook's kind of the main space where I play. You can find books on Amazon under my name, because they're all self-published there. And yeah, pretty much using those avenues, to get a hold of me. You can sign up for a trust and say, no, I just want to talk to you about your books. That's fine. We can play in that space.
Awesome. So, is there anything that that I may have missed that you think is important that we share? I mean, I know that there's obviously a plethora of things, but is there anything that you think is imperative that we share on this podcast today?
No, I think
Regarding your
you've heard quite enough from me, right? So
business.
it was fun to kind of go through the journey again and share some of those stories I haven't thought about for a minute.
Awesome, man. Well, the final question is, what is one of your favorite songs or favorite quotes or both?
Favorite song or quote or both? So I listen to a lot of classical music. I blame my dad. A lot of Scottish music. That song. It just gets me pumping. So anything with bagpipes, or with strings or cello. I listened to a lot of Lord of the Rings music. So concerning hobbits. But I think my favorite song right now, currently, I'm listening to the Rudy soundtrack, and that's just super inspiring. And I've spent a lot of time listening to that. So that right now is my favorite. And my favorite quote is, we just spent some time in Hannibal, Missouri, home of Mark Twain. It's right on the Mississippi, the setting for Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, and a couple other things. And I just feel him there. It's really fun. And my favorite quote for him right now is, don't get into it with idiots, because they'll bring you down to their level and beat you at their own game. And I teach myself that when I want to say something on social media and I really shouldn't. And so I just remember Mark, what Mark Twain said.
That's honestly one of the best quotes.
And I think I paraphrased there, but that was
Yeah.
the point, right?
Exactly. I love it. Dang, Michael, this has been a sincere pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you very much for joining us. Do you have any final words for today? Any words of wisdom you'd like to share?
No, just live your best life. It really is your story, your life, and you are the author of it. You can make it a good one, or not. It's up to you.
I love it. Cool, man. Well, I'm going to place you in the green room for just a couple of moments while I wrap up the show, if that's cool with you.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
Hey, you're welcome, my friend. We'll talk to you in just a sec. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Glassford with Legal Inc. Definitely reach out to him if you want to learn more about his legal services or his writing. He's a very talented individual, and he's fun to get to know regardless. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us on Always the Journey TV. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and throw us a thumbs up on the video. Again, I sincerely appreciate your time and spending with us, and I wish you an amazing rest of your week. Take care.